Oh man, everybody, I'm really excited to have you join Will and I's conversation today. Will Dowell has been a dear friend and really have enjoyed our connection time. It's been something that has emerged through working together and pursuing hard things and from being in a business mindset, but sharing the value of connection and how that emerged into early morning runs, late night hangouts. And Will was one of my pacers for the Moab 240 experience. And leading up to this, it was so great to see his own journey evolve. And since pacing me last year, he has taken on ultras in a new and exciting way. And so that's the bulk of this experience. But it's also fun to talk about how these things are connected to other parts of life, which is one of my favorite things about ultra running and what that looks like. So enjoy these nuggets. If you are also joining for someone that is considering 100-mile distance, this is a great podcast to show you what it's like for someone who's pursued that somewhat recently. And especially if you're considering the Creed 100, this is something that will give you a little bit more insight. So excited to have you all hop in. Thanks for listening. And I'll leave it to Will and I from here. All right. Well, very cool. Well, Will, I've been looking forward to this for a long time. And what's cool about this discussion is you and I have been on this fascinating friendship journey, and it was kind of fun to think about things before we connect. And we've run across different parts of the country together. Like it's been this, our friendship has been like this really cool dynamic where we were both kind of in pursuit of cool things, like mostly for work is how we got connected. But then it was like, oh, like we can connect late, but we can also get up early and run and all this sort of stuff. And then I was reflecting, I was like, man, we did that in cool places, just casually. And then we've also run together in cool places for a thing too, which is pretty cool. It was a really fun thing where I think you're the first friend that I was like, oh, it was like this intentional thing that didn't start intentionally, but it was like, oh, every time that we were on like a work trip together, I was like, I got to bring my running stuff because I got to run with Will at least once. And
Totally.
it was such a cool reflection. I was like, man, what a cool dynamic of a friendship to where it's just, oh, we're pursuing things together. And at the time, very different things. And you were always so inquisitive about, wait, what are you trying to train for? And I would give you a hard time. And I'm like, you could do all of these things. Like, why are you the one that's just like in awe of trying to do these hard things? And so, and that was like the impetus of like why I wanted to connect, because your journey has been awesome. And it's been so fun to see how you almost took for granted like the level of fitness and intention that you put into your life. And then I was so proud and happy to watch you just dial it up and say, you know what? I can do hard things
You pushed me over the edge.
in a good way. Yeah.
I was thinking about you 2 weeks ago. I ran a 50K and I wasn't going to run it, but I had talked a friend into it. I felt I was channeling my inner Trevon, talking to the guy. We were in Leadville pacing a buddy. He was there to crew, used to do tries, and was like, hey, I don't know. I've always thought about running an ultra. This is so cool. And I said, dude, 12 weeks out, you could go caps to 50K in 12 weeks. It's just like a marathon. It's really no different. And he was like, really? You think I can? And so he signed up, and I think 2 weeks, 3 weeks max pre-race, I felt bad because I had talked him into it. And so I signed up to go run it. Also, it was really fun. It was fun. He finished, which was amazing. And I pushed through, and is pretty proud of himself. And I PR'd to my 50K, which is pretty,
What? Congratulations, man. That's
pretty,
huge.
I was pumped. I was pumped. Yeah.
Yeah. Was this one in Texas?
Texas. Yeah. The Rattler, Austin Rattler. It's a Leadville
Okay.
qualifier. So
Oh,
we ended up with a big group going, people trying to qualify or just get a token to get in.
right.
lottery, and I didn't care. I wasn't trying to get to Leadville, but it's fun 50K, and I just kind of went for it. Thought if my body breaks down, it breaks down, but let's go see what's possible. And in a 5 hour 50K, which for me is pretty great. And
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
it's awesome. So now I'm kind of thinking maybe I can push a little harder. My body's got more to give than I realized.
Oh man.
And
That is,
it sucks you back in, which is just here we are.
yeah. And that's so funny because as we were doing these runs, and you were always so gracious because you and I are very different runners. And so you've got, yeah, yeah. And that's what I'm saying. It was such a great demonstration of friendship because your pace went way down and my pace went way up. So we were trying to meet each other somewhere in the middle. I just want to illustrate that like we didn't train the same, but we made it what it should be. It was like a connection and we were doing it together.
Right, man. It's all about connection. It's all about the connection. That's the whole point. So
Yeah. And so it's hilarious to see how you couldn't connect either your desire or your fitness level or whatever to even marathon. You were like, Trevon, I'm not even interested in marathon training. I don't. I've got the sweet spot. I love just casually being able to go, 5 miles a day. I like to push it sometimes, maybe to 10. And that just feels like really good. I might do a half and that feels fun. And you're like, all my friends that have tried to do this big thing have gotten hurt and all this sort of stuff. And you're just talking about all these things.
and then you came along.
And then Trevon friendship happens.
It was great, man. I mean, I remember training when you were going to do Moab 240 and you asked me to pace you. And I remember thinking, okay, like I can't be the reason that he gets held back. So I got to train. I can't be out there and all of a sudden just fall apart. And so I ended up running a 60K. It was my first ultra. It was my first marathon, that mind you.
That's the best part. Keep going though.
And it was a night race. I know because it was August in Texas, and I was like, I can't run during the day in Texas.
No.
So I got to run a night race, which it was like 95 or something. It was the lowest, like coolest they got that night, and it was horrible. It was a horrible ultra. I puked everywhere. It was an awful experience, and yet I would never have done it if you hadn't asked me to pace you. And there was some point once we got to Moab, and I was running with you. I thought, you did this. And you did this to me. I was realizing, oh, I wouldn't have done this if Trevon hadn't asked to pace him. Trevon knew what he was doing. Trevon orchestrated this entire thing.
Mm.
And I wasn't mad about it.
Well, I don't know that I had the end in mind because you've gone much further than the 60K at this point. And it's funny that you bring that race up because I do appreciate your intention of taking pacing seriously. And I was not worried. I knew that you didn't have to run an ultra before coming and pacing me, even though you would do ultra level distance over those days, right?
Yeah.
Like, I think you ended up doing 70 something miles with me.
No, I did. I ran 250Ks both overnight with you.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's funny that you mentioned how terrible your first ultra was for yourself, but the issues that you had and your experience that you had during that got me through a very similar experience where it was wild to me how beneficial even that one ultra was for you to be in a crew position to troubleshoot a problem. And that's one of my favorite parts about ultra running. And I want to get to your experience with your 100 too, because you definitely had some of these things where, something goes wrong, right? And that's what I love about it. And you were with me for some definite things were going wrong in a couple different times. Will, I love you so much because you bore the brunt of the heaviest and darkest times of my Moab experience. But I just have all this gratitude because it was so serendipitous to be in the spot where I'm having GI issues for the first time ever in an ultra. And you're like, sounds like my problem. Let's try this. And it was just this, I mean, I would have had confidence in you regardless, but I was like, I mean, I would have tried anything probably at that point because I was a, I was a low. It was a low.
You were like mile 100, knowing you had 140 to go, and it was like, this is not good.
I,
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 I remember the look on your face.
yeah, I was scared. I, the two times that I was the most scared, I was with you for sure.
Second time was rough, but the first time, yeah, I mean, it was just a salt issue. What's funny, Trevin, is I've had that issue. Yeah, I went 60K, then I ran the two 50Ks with you, 60 something miles with you, dang your deal. And then long break, and then I ran 100K in May, had GI issues there. Creed was the first time I didn't have GI issues. And then a few weeks ago at the 50K, I didn't have GI issues again. So it took me a while to figure it out. But it's been funny because when I was in Leadville and I was there to pace a buddy, he came in at mile 20 something. And I was like, dude, you got to cut the salt. Like you could see it on him. And it was like you, where I just, to your point, only reason I knew it was that I had lived it and it was awful.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, so cool that you could see like the symptoms. I was so stoked hearing and we haven't really connected a ton
Yeah.
verbally. Like we've texted and I reread your reflections and things like that from your Creed 100 and you kind of gave us a little bit of a tee up. So I'm curious and we can all ask questions along the way, but essentially you got the bug and then you were like, okay, what does 100 look like? And then Will, in true fashion, and this is where it's fun to know you, you don't do things halfway. Once you commit to something,
I got to finish.
well, and you don't always, you're not taking the path of least resistance. And what I'm about to say is going to sound ridiculous. When I decided to do 100, the reason why I said yes to Tony was because it was the flattest race in America. Like we went to go do the Keys 100 and I didn't think about the heat. Like I,
Talking about.
no, all I was saying is I don't want to do hills. I just got out of CrossFit. I'm going back into this. Give me the flattest thing. You chose one of the most difficult ones that, you know, doesn't take like a lottery to get in or whatever, but it's this race was something else. And so that alone to me also just spoke volumes of who you are, the type of character you are and that you have and what this could mean for you and what you wanted to get out of it. And so I am curious because I don't think I asked some of those questions. I loved hearing about, okay, this is the one. And we had kind of gone back and forth of, okay, I'm thinking about this one or that one. But
Yep.
can you tell me a little bit about why this one and kind of tee up some of the stats of the race before we get into the
Okay.
actual your experience?
Yeah. But first of all, your choice to run the Keys is no less insane. And the number of people I've heard talk about the Keys where they say, I would never run that race. I'm not saying I wouldn't, but hearing people say I would never run it because of the humidity, because of how awful that is. So it's just a different kind of pain. I chose hills or mountains and cooler temperatures and altitude. Those were the challenges I wanted to deal with, not the heat. So so like why Creed? I was looking at a bunch, and really what it came down to for me was a few factors. Timing.
Yep.
When in during the year was this race? I needed it to be like earliest June, latest August before school. Basically, I was trying to get it in between when my kids were out of school. And then I knew for me, I wanted to be in the mountains. I love the mountains. I love the beauty of the mountains. There's something like on a soul level for me that happens there. And so I knew that. And then I knew that from training, I mean, living in Texas, training in Texas, in Dallas, it's hot, it's humid. You really don't have many months where it's like decent.
Yeah.
And so I know what the heat does to me and I can endure it, but there's a point that like I have not figured out yet where like the 100K that I ran in May leading up to Creed, it was 103 degrees. We were in or no, we were at Glen Rose, and it was a freak. It shouldn't have been 103. Like it just was a fluke weekend where it kicked up. It was so hot. And 31 miles in, like my salt went sideways, and I had been like using less, but I don't know what happened, but GI went sideways, and I couldn't recover. And I think I had a banana in cold water for the last 31 miles, just like trying to dig it out. But point being, like I haven't figured out how to endure in that level of heat yet, even though I live in it on 31 miles. And so for me, I needed the cool air. And so, from what that meant is I was going to accept the challenges of a lot of climbing and altitude. And I don't think so there's not a lot of information out there about Creed 100.
Okay.
Going in, I could only find one podcast, and it was from like 2021, 2022. It was one of the first years of the race. And it was a guy who'd run it, and Mountain Goat Diaries was the name of the podcast. Heard him explain his race. That was it. That was all I found on Creed 100. So I didn't know, man.
Yeah.
I knew that it was at average elevation of 11.5 or something like that, which I was like, well, that's not that much higher than Leadville. I can handle that. And I knew that the vertical gain was like 22,000 feet. And I thought, that's fine. Like I love climbing. I'm great with that. So that's where my headspace was. It was like right time, right place with mountains. Vertical gain didn't throw me off, and I thought the altitude would be fine. And so, then the last thing I would say is, to date, Trevin, I've really just run small, like old school ultras. And it wasn't by design. It's just what I happened into. And even Moab 240 felt like that way to me. It was a much bigger production in the grand scheme of things, but it ran like just a small, like ultra. And so I think going into Creed, I loved that it was 100 people max. And then that number obviously came down. I forget how many of us started. I think it was like 65 or something. And I think I just appreciated that it was going to be a chill race. And so those were the factors that I was looking for. And I picked out a number of races. There was one in June that I liked. And I talked to Tony, mutual friend of ours, about it. And Tony said to me, hey, I think you probably have the fitness to pull it off in June, but I mean, to get yourself an extra 6 weeks to get yourself to the end of July, that hurt you. Why not just take the time if you like that race too? And so I took his advice, waited, and then, that was kind of it. Like they were a number of races, and Creed ended up being the one. And it was a mystery. I did not know what I was getting myself into once I started it.
Oh man. I love that. It's always fascinating to me. It's such a cool example of being able to find fit because these things take so much time and investment. And so I think a lot of people put up barriers, and it doesn't have to be that way. You could find challenges that take a lot of investment in the flow of your life. And it's a matter of priority and things like that. And so I appreciate you walking me through that, because I know how intentional you are and how much you try to stack and how much family is a priority and all these things. And I also know that you even included this as part of summer for your kids, right? Like you spent some time altitude training with the kids, having them have a fun experience in preparation of this big thing. And so I think it's this common misconception around, hey, build your life, and you can incorporate these big things into your life. That I know your wife was part of the crew and things like that. But even if that's not true, you can still find the space, and the payoff was pretty incredible if you make the intentional push to do it, and you know why you're doing it, right?
Yeah, which that was definitely key. Yeah, no, I love that you brought that up, Trevin. I made a decision going in that I wasn't going to let this disrupt our family life. And that there were sacrifices I had to make. I mean, there were a lot of mornings, Saturdays especially, where alarm would go off at 3 or 3:30, and I was getting out the door by 3:45, 4:15 to go run 5 or 6 hours. and try to get home, by 9 a.m. on a Saturday morning. And my logic was my kids will be up, but they're hanging. Allison will sleep in a little bit or be with the kids. But by 9 a.m. people are starting to move.
Yeah.
And I want to be able to enter in with them. And on it, what's funny too is that it probably helped my recovery because I didn't go home and plop down and say, I got to rest, y'all. I just ran for 6 hours. It was just we're going right into the day. So I was moving my legs, and it probably helped my recovery more than I realized. But I made that choice. Was it hard? Yeah, it was hard. I mean, on Friday nights when we can go to the pool or we can go out to eat, and I love a good margarita, and I really want that, but I'm not going to have it because I gotta wake up early, and I want to be, I want to get the best out of this run tomorrow. And so, yeah, I made sacrifices, but they were, to your point, in the name of pursuing a goal that included not compromising with my family. And I was talking to Allison about it the other day because of this race that I just did. And she was saying to somebody else, she was like, yeah, I actually forgot Will was running a race this weekend. I know he left like late on Friday because I got, family situated, and then I drove, but I woke up, ran the race, and then drove home. And,
Right.
and she was like, she texted me, I don't know, like an hour after I'd finished. I was like, hey, are you good? And I said, yeah, I finished about an hour ago. And she admitted when I got home, she's like, I actually forgot you were running. And which I think is great. I told her, I was like, I love that you forgot. It means that
Yeah.
like we're living life, and like you're supporting me, and I got to go do this thing, and I'm coming right back and jumping right back in. And so going to Creed, not only was there involvement from them in the lead up, like Allison and the kids came to the 100K in May, and they came for, it's probably an hour and a half drive away from Dallas. They came for, it was a figure 8 deal. So you
Okay.
like 7 mile loop and a 3.5 mile loop. And so you just went around and came back to the same point where I had a tent and I was crewing myself, but they came out and hung for, I think I saw them like 3 times, but like they saw me do 10 or something miles, and it was great. So fun. And then they drove home, and that was their first experience. And my kids thought it was the coolest thing ever. And so when we got to Creed, we went up there early. I think we were there 21 days early. And so we had
Oh,
3 weeks
cool.
just hanging out in the mountains, which was so great. We got to work from up there. A lot of runs with my kids or like where they're biking, which is fun, where they might go for 5 miles or 3 miles or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I think during the race too, seeing them at the aid stations, Trevin, they loved it. Like they thought it was so much fun to be at an aid station, watch other runners come in. You're cheering them on. I would come in, they would help me out. And you know how they are. Like, you're not trying to hang at those aid stations unless you have to.
Yeah.
I might see him for 10 minutes.
Right.
The last one I saw him for 45 because I was having problems. But yeah, you see him for a bit and then you're out of there. And they loved it. And so I think you're right. I'm glad you brought it up. I think for people who think, man, these are time consuming, the answer is yes, they are.
Yeah.
But they don't have to consume your time without intention. And you need to decide. Does that mean you may make sacrifices and go to bed early or wake up really early or run late or whatever? Yeah, it does. But it doesn't have to take over.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. So we're 21 days up. Also, that's wild. I can't imagine the benefit, but also keeping some things at bay with the 21 days prep in it, like on site, essentially, because I don't think I could have done that with Moab. I think I would have psyched myself out. I think I would have been, just okay, I'm here. And what does that mean? And oh my gosh. And even if my family was there, I would have been like, this is big. Do you see that mountain over there? We're going to try to climb that. But you had that for almost a month. So
I had it for 5 days leading up. So we were in a different part of Colorado,
okay,
8,000 feet for about 3 weeks. And then we went to Creed, which was about 9,500 feet for just basically the 5 days before the race. So you're not wrong. I think I could have, but yeah, thankfully,
yeah,
it was funny. Just funny aside, we're at Creed. We're 5 days before, it's part of our family vacation. So we're hanging out, and Creed is a mining town. They have the old mine that was there, and you can go visit it. And so my kids for school have to do a semester project. So one of them was going to do their project on the Creed mine. So we went, toured the mine, and I didn't know this, but in mines, obviously not all the rock that they chip away at is usable. And so they, they push it out, and then it basically just gets thrown down the side of the mountain. So in this mine, you have this massive scree pile of rocks. And one of the activities you can do when you go to this mine in Creed is you can go walk around on that pile and see if they threw out anything that they shouldn't have thrown out, which they do. And they have, different stories of people finding crazy things. And so we go out on the scree pile, you take buckets and you're walking around. And I don't know, I'm probably like 3 days out from the race.
Yeah.
Maybe 2. And I'm walking around this pile, and mind you, it's a scree pile. Like, it's not, I don't like, liability wise, like, I have no idea how they're allowed to do it, because you could totally just eat it, smash onto a rock, and you could probably slide if you wanted to. So, but I'm out there walking around, and Trevor and I totally had that thought. Oh my gosh, I'm going to hurt myself. I'm going to twist an ankle. Like, I got to get off this pile. But at the same time, I'm thinking, this is, from my kids' perspective, this is the funnest thing they've done today.
Right.
It'll change in an hour, but like, I want to be part of it. So it was a funny moment of psyching myself out, where that was probably the closest I came, was freaking up, and I was going to hurt myself on this screen.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. For a school project. You're just like, I put all this time in. All right. So buildup is there, and it's funny. You can go into whatever detail you want. I haven't heard much about the front half, because your reflections don't really start until, it was such a great opener, where in your reflection document, just totally set the stage. Anybody who's run a marathon or an ultra could put themselves in the way that you opened that. And we can start there too, if you want, but it sounds like things were going great on the first half of this race. And so I am curious, because we haven't connected. What was that like? What were the things going through your head? What were the things that you remember? Because you also chose this with some intention of, you're in the mountains and you're pushing yourself in a different way, and all this sort of stuff. So what was the first half like for you?
Yeah. Well, so I'll give you even the build up into it, because there's really nothing out there on Creed. And
Wild.
And if somebody eventually listens to this thing who plans to run Creed, I hope this is helpful. So the race directors are amazing. It's like a family and friends affair of people in Creed. It's pretty cool. And it's that's the kind of race it feels like. It feels like you're entering into somebody's like family friend group, and everybody's excited about this one thing and taking care of you. Like,
Cool.
Like the race director, you get the standard speech before you're about to take off, and he's, don't die, which is, you always get that one. And by the way, like, you better be nice to all the people at the aid stations, because over half of them are my family. And which is awesome. It was kind of cool. And they would move around. Like, you might see them at an aid station at, mile 25. And then they're like, you're seeing them again at, mile 80. And that was fun. Like, Allison connected with one of the volunteers like really well, because they ran into each other a few times, and I was having issues with my ankles, which we'll get into. But so that was really cool, Trevin. So that is really cool about the race. It's an old school. Tony described it that way to me. He said he was reading about it before him when I was trying to pick a race, and he said, "Well, this feels like Leadville in the early days. I guess it's an old school, like, ultra. It's people who love to run and love the mountains and put a really hard course together. That's what it is." And so, like, the race starts at 8 a.m. You gather this little park. It's really just like a patch of grass behind the supermarket, grocery store in Creed, which Creed is a tiny town. Like, it's tiny. And you gather there. There's 60 or 70 of us that show up. Everybody's excited. You get your speech, and then you take off, and you're running straight out of town, down this road. And eventually you're going to run right back in on 100 miles later, and 100 almost 9 miles later, actually, which is, they don't tell you that. And so, so just so everyone knows, it's not 100 miles. It's 108.75. And at one point I asked them, the volunteers, because I was like, the distance between that last aid station to this one, y'all said was 9 miles or something. And it was for sure more than 13. And
Yeah.
she goes, "Oh yeah, it is." And I said, "Well, then why don't you just say it's that long?" And she was like, "Don't know." Because my watch, like I'm way off now. And you start talking to other runners and you're like, are you at like mile 92 right now? We're supposed to be at like 87, like coming into an aid station. And they're like, yeah, I'm at 92. Okay, cool. Great. I guess this race is longer. And it is. It's 108.75.
Oh man.
And so we take off down the road going out of town. You sort of, at the end of the road, you sort of bank like a U-turn kind of thing. And then you're heading uphill. And you're running through Creed. Creed's a mountain town. So like you're running on like dirt roads. Houses are you like further between than you would normally think in a neighborhood. You go up, you climb down, and then you cross another road, and then you're basically going out into the wilderness.
Yeah.
And so you within call it 3 miles, you're out of civilization. You're in the mountains, and it is a slow, gradual climb. And at that point, as you know, everybody's hanging together, you're talking. It was funny, the going back real fast, we run down the main road out of town. Everybody's jogging. As
Right.
soon as you bank the U-turn and you go up a hill, literally everyone just starts walking together.
Right.
No, not doing that. We're not going too fast too far right now. And so yeah, anyways, you get into the wilderness, you cruise out. The first aid station is, I don't know, 15 and a half miles away,
Okay.
which I was worried about because I forget what the elevation game was, but it was like 3,000 feet, 2,000 feet, something like that.
Yeah.
It wasn't nothing. It was a gradual climb. Maybe it was 4,000 feet. It was a decent amount. And I was worried, Trevor, that I would, it would take longer. And I remember thinking, okay, if this is like worst case scenario, this could take me 7 hours.
Right.
And it's like less than, that's a walk. That's like slow walk because I was thinking uphill.
Yep.
It did not take that long, thankfully. And so, but saying that is I was loaded with water. So I had a heavy pack on because I didn't want to get stuck with no water
Yeah. Because that's a long time in between aid.
all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so and everyone was, because there's nothing out there about Creed. And so the good news is it didn't take that long. I don't remember how long it took me. It wasn't anywhere near that amount of time. Maybe it was like 4 hours, I think.
Yeah.
But it wasn't slow, or it wasn't fast because it is uphill. But it wasn't such a steep uphill that you're just like walking. So it was a walk jog, sort of rolling thing. You get up there and then hit that aid station, grab water and refill. And then you have to go down and then you backtrack back to this trail. And from that point, you're going up on top of the Continental Divide,
Cool.
Colorado Trail. And I have this incredible picture when I got up there, because you're above tree line. It's green everywhere. It's one of the most stunning views I've ever seen. And I mean, you can see as far as you can see in every direction, and it's green, but like at the farthest edge of what you can see is like mountains all around. It was the coolest view. And this was cool and demoralizing. The trail you're running, is this patch of, tan in a sea of green that cuts as far as your eye can see out forward in front of you. And then you don't know where it goes, but you know you're going there. And it was one of those, how long are we going to be up here? And that, mind you, was where I realized this 11,400 feet average elevation or average altitude was a little bit of a misnomer. Because what you do in this race is you climb up to about 12,000 feet. It takes you about 25 miles to get there.
Okay.
You basically stay there for 60 miles.
Oh my gosh.
And you go anywhere from 12,000 all the way up to 13,500. So you go up, you stay up. There is a little point where you drop down, but you come right back up. And so this chunk in the middle of the race, of the bulk of the race, you're just up on top of the world, which is crazy for multiple reasons. One, you're at altitude. It's not a race where they're like high, low, like some of the Hard Rock, these other races that are very different races where it's like up to 14 and you could come down. This is, you're up and then you just stay up and it's tough. And
Yeah.
so that was crazy. But yeah, you cruise on this sea of green forever, climbing. I mean, you think it's flat, but you're really climbing. You drop down a little bit into the next aid station, which was at mile 25,
Okay.
allegedly. Spring Creek. It's you're up there. And that point, I mean, you're in a parking lot, like a hiking parking lot, where you park your car and grab a bathroom, and then you're out on a trail.
Yeah.
And this is where the Colorado Trail cuts across the highway. And so you come across the highway, like through a stream. There's some water crossings throughout that section of 25. Yeah, you kind of come in with wet feet. I think I changed my shoes, was out of there in 10 minutes. And then you're out, you're right back up high, and you're out. And you're out a ways. And from that point, you have, I don't know, 7 miles to the next aid station. They say it's 5, it's more than that. And I remember this guy who had won here before, who was he was doing volunteering at the aid stations this year. He was like, hey, if you don't get water there, you're screwed. Like, load up, because it's a long haul to the next aid station, and there's no streams. You're going through.
There's nothing.
Because you're now up at 12.8 to 13.5, and you're not coming down. So there's no water, there's no tree cover. You're just on top of the world.
Yeah.
And which is incredible. But I remember him saying, you better load up.
Yeah.
Or we'll run it. So everyone's loading up. So now, like, you're loaded down, and you're cruising out, and you're up forever. That takes you a good long ways. I can't remember the name of the aid station. I think that one was like Jerosa, maybe. I can't remember, but Jerosa. But you go out to another one way further out. You basically go up to the highest point, and right when you crest up there, you sort of drop down into this other aid station, which takes you out to the furthest point, which is mile 855.
Okay.
And so that whole section, Trevin, I felt, well, I should say, going into Jerosa, which is probably mile, I don't know, 40. No, it would have been, maybe mile 40.
Yeah.
You're 15 more to that, to 55. I felt amazing. Felt great. I came into that aid station. I remember I went into that aid station with no headlamp. I kind of made it there, no headlamp, incredible views, body felt great. I'd been walking and running both, trying to preserve energy. I was with a bunch of people who had run it before, and none of them had finished. And so one guy was on his third try.
Dang.
Yeah, which is a bummer for him. I'll tell you more about him here in a second. But I come in, no headlamp, and left with a headlamp because it had gotten dark. We went in with no headlamps. Literally, I was like saying to the group, I'm like, no, out of principle, we just got to make this one with no headlamps. Like, it is dark, we can get there. We get in there, no headlamps, body felt great. I remember coming out of there, I was starting to feel a little pain in my left ankle, and the tendons that basically on the front of your leg that connect sort of the shin down into the foot. Like, you flex your foot up, it's like those tendons that go through that you can see. I felt it bad, or not bad. I was feeling it. So we remember right before that we had been at 13.5 or 13.4, whatever it is. And so you drop from there over whatever it was, but you drop down, call it 14 miles to, I don't know, 9,000 feet or something like that, to get to the mile 55 aid station. So it's a good drop. Somewhere between, in that time frame, those tendon, the left foot, just, it was getting bad. And then by the time I got to mile 55, which was the midway point, which is where I could pick up a pacer, my right ankle was starting to feel a little bit, but you know how it is in ultras. Like, well, this will go away. Like, I just got to keep moving.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, or you forget about it, or it's just one of those things that goes away.
Yeah.
And that's where I was. So I go into mile 55, Zach, my pacer's there. And I was like, okay, I'm going to tape my left ankle. And I didn't even know what I was doing. I just started putting tape on it, trying to figure out. I thought it was like, I like basically taped it on the front, thinking that it would like help aid in my leg, being able to pick my foot up.
Yeah.
And changed socks, kept the same shoes, grabbed some hash browns and kept moving. So at this point, Trevin, I've had no GI issues. My legs feel amazing, other than this ankle, which I'm thinking it'll go away.
Yeah.
Best I'd ever felt in an ultra.
Wild. Yeah.
And I
So
was,
cool.
I was probably 2.5, 3 hours ahead of the pace that I wanted to be.
Oh,
So I was feeling great, like
yeah.
really great. And I thought, okay, like I may finish in the daylight tomorrow,
Yeah.
but it's the, like 55, it's middle of the night. I think I got Zach at 1:30 a.m. or something.
Okay.
So I come back through the aid station because he had parked behind it, and it was funny. He's like, yeah, the race director just pulled in and he crashed, not crashed. He like ran his motorbike into a creek and is like drenched, and it's cold. Like I have on a lot of layers, so he's in there laughing, soaking wet in dirt bike gear, and some of the guys I had been running with had just come into the aid station. So at some point on that descent, I had been moving with them. It's the middle of the night. It's, how it is, like the middle of the night. It's good to be with people. But there
Yeah.
was the point where I just decided I'm ready to move faster
Yeah.
and feeling good. And I'm just going to go. So I left them probably, I don't know how many miles out, but I left. And so by the time I get in, totally get situated and I'm leaving, they were coming in. And, oh, so there's three of them. So one guy was like, hey, I'm going back out, but he wasn't feeling good. One guy was like, hey, I'm coughing stuff up. I'm out. I'm dropping.
Mm. Yep.
The other guy had a heart deal and he was feeling some heart palpitations and was worried that something could go wrong. And so very wisely was like, I'm out.
Yeah.
I'll live to fight another day. So they dropped, which was
Oh,
a total bummer because for one of those guys, it was the third time he had tried and
yeah.
just couldn't, it is just didn't work.
Yeah. Right.
So anyways, see them, Zach and I leave, and I had talked to a guy who would run it in town at a restaurant who was running it again. And he was like, yeah, dude, that climb out of that mile 55 aid station back up to the 13.5 high point. He was like, it's awful.
Mm.
It's 4,500 feet and it's a shorter, I think it's 7 miles or something. It's a shorter distance to get back up there that we took to get down. And you're just on this road that's it's just straight uphill. It's awful.
Right.
It was so bad. So, I mean, how you feel midway race. I'm feeling pretty bad, or not bad. I'm just feeling like that tire where you're like, oh my gosh, I still have a long way to go. My ankle's not feeling great, but we're going uphill. Just got a pacer. So it's a mix of emotions, a mix of, I can do this. I really hope my ankle holds up. This uphill's awful. It's cold. Oh my gosh, like, the stars were like so far out in the cold where there's no light pollution. Biggest stars I've ever seen in my life. Incredible. And so we're cruising. The guy who I had met in town to run the race before, his name's Nathaniel, amazing artist, charcoal artist. And we come along him and his pacer. They're chilling on the trail. And I remember I was like, Nate, get up, get moving. Do not sit here. We got this. And it was just as much as an encouragement to my own self as it was to him. Yeah. Like, you're right. And so they were behind us for a good ways. He ended up passing me at like around mile 80, and finished, which was awesome.
Yeah.
But at that point, he was in a low spot. And so we eventually make it all the way out of that thing. By the time we get back up to the high point, my right ankle's hurting and I am not feeling great. And I think, so I've got both ankles hurt each other. My right ankle I had not taped and I probably unwisely didn't stop to tape it.
Mm.
And I remember saying to Zach, my pacer, I was like, dude, I don't know if this is going to get better or not. And he, as you would have said to me, he was like, dude, just keep moving. Like something else will hurt soon enough.
Yep.
And you're like, yeah, right. Yeah, go. Just keep it. So we keep cruising. Oh, by the way, the aid station, there's an aid station in between there that you hit just before you get to the high point. And the guys who run it are the race directors from the URA 100 race, which is really cool because they come run that aid station and the race directors from Creed 100 the week before run one of the aid stations for URA. So they just have this cool collaborative approach and they were just fun to talk to when you came in because you hit that aid station right before you go down to the mile 55 and you hit it on the way back up. And they just get it. I think they know the pain you're in. They were great. So helpful and knew exactly what they almost just looking at you. They're like, eat this. It was just great. And yeah, so anyways, we cruise out of there. We get back to the high point. The sun rises as we hit the high point, which was total.
Uh,
I mean, you remember from Moab when you and I were together, it's like, dude, we just got to get to the sunrise.
yeah.
You and I were both falling asleep while running. You had a good dirt nap, but it's just like, we just got to get to the sunrise. So we get there. It's a little bit of a boost. And at that point, you're on this flat part that you're up high. You're at that 13,000 feet elevation, but you're on these weird sort of rolling. I don't even know how to describe it. There's points where like you're flat and then you'll drop down and you'll come back up, and
Yeah.
you're basically reversing this like chain. And somewhere along there, man, my ankles. I remember saying to Zach, "This is not going to get better."
Yeah.
And he was like, "Dude, we just have to keep moving." And so they were getting worse every time I would hit a rock or a root. Once we got back into some trees, man, it was so painful. So I can't describe the pain. It was some of the worst pain I felt. And so then we get into Harosa. I think that was the name of it. It was like, they say it's 4 or 5 miles out from the 80-mile deal, and it's not 7. What's supposed to be 80 was like 82 or 85 or something like that.
Right. Which is a total mind blow when you're, yeah.
Dude, 2 miles when you're moving slow, like that could be 40 minutes.
Yeah. Absolutely. Right.
And so the not mile 80 mile ATJ is Spring Creek, which is the one that I told you, like mile 25 when I crossed the road. So like you hit that and you go back across the road and back up on the. So I'm at Horizon's one right up we're out there. We come in with Nate. And so he caught me on that traverse. I would move between like, Zach, I can't miss the cutoff at Spring Creek because Mike, my other pacer, had traveled all this way. And I was like, he can't have come here in IDNF. Like I have to get there on time.
Yeah.
So you have to get me. And so we would like oscillate between, 12-minute mile and then me being like in horrible pain and just trying to walk as fast as I could. But like it was back and forth.
Yeah.
And so we get to this aid station, run in with Nate and his pacer, and Nate and I sit down in chairs. And the volunteers are amazing. They're like they're grabbing all my bottles, they're refilling everything. And I'm sitting there eating hash browns, which were like light. They were like the greatest thing ever. These, and I'm sitting there, Trevon, and I'm talking to Nate, feeling bad, but whatever. And I go, he's like, all right, I'm getting out of here. And I was like, all right, cool, cruise with y'all. And I get up to stand up. And the second I stand up, I can feel all the blood rush to my ankles. And it was like instant swell, instant pain. And I remember going, whoa, I had poles to catch myself. But the lady who had my bottles just about to hand them to me is like, are you good? And I was like, yeah, I'm good. Yeah, just a little pain, like trying to play it off. But it's a different level of pain. So Nate and his pacer at this point are jogging. And I'm like, all right, exactly. Let's just try to hang right behind them and let them pull us in. So we take off out of there and it's back uphill and then down. So like the uphill, I can kind of do a little bit of a jog. The second we crest and start coming down, I mean, I could hardly. It was so painful. And so I'm looking at Zach, dude. We were supposed to be 5 miles out.
Yeah.
More than that. And the cutoffs for the race are built on a 40-hour total cutoff, like total finish time.
Okay. Yep.
And everything matches that way, except the 80-mile 88 station, Spring Creek, is not designed for that. And you don't know it until you're there. It's basically designed, so it's a 12 p.m. cutoff for that aid station. So 11:59 p.m., so 12 hours later, you're 28 and some change, 28.75 miles out, allegedly from there.
Yeah.
Well, you would be. Well, however far it is, but it is being that far out. What they're trying to do is get you to mile 100, and I'll tell you why in a second, before the sun sets. And so the reason for that is what this steep how you have to descend. And it's very, very technical, and they don't want you there in the dark. And so if you don't make that cutoff by noon, you're out. And so I don't know what the finish time would be as a result of that,
Yeah.
but not for 40 hours. It's probably for 36 or 35 hours.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
But if you get there, then if you get there by noon, then you can take all the way to 40 hours. So I come in, mind you, I've been like 2.5, 3 hours, 3.5 hours. Like I was way ahead of what I wanted to be. I come into that aid station 20 minutes before it got off. And there's a video,
Gosh.
me coming in, and you've been running. I told you it's kind of like up and down or whatever. And then you sort of like come down into this parking lot. And there's a video of me coming in, and my kids come out to get me, and they're coming with me. And I remember, Trevon, thinking that I was running. And the video, if you look at it, is such a pathetic walk. It's a shuffle, but it's pathetic. And I remember thinking like, I've got a little bit of pain.
Yeah. I'm moving great.
And I knew I was in pain, but wow, it's pathetic to watch. So I go in, I make the cutoff, go to the car. They had everything laid out. I remember I walked over, I laid on the ground, and I just put my feet up on the back of the car, trying to get the blood out of my ankles.
Mm-hmm.
That aid station stop, thankfully, was not when I left. It was when I got there.
Nice.
I stayed 45 minutes.
Okay.
Long stop.
Yeah, that's a long aid station stop. Yep.
And the reason was it took me a very long time to get my socks off because it hurt so bad. To touch my ankles was horrible pain. So tender. So like to get my socks off took forever. And then Mike McCauley, my new pacer, who was jumping in there, he said, hey, let's tape your ankles. And I was like, all right, good idea. Let's tape them. So we taped both of them. Well, that was incredibly painful. And I'm like writhing in pain, like, I'd like come up off the ground and Mike's, dude, we have to do this if you want to finish. Get my socks on, horrible pain, so much pain. But other than that, Trevon, like my legs felt great. Emotionally, other than being completely demoralized that my ankles were, I was great. GI, zero issues. Like my nutrition strategy, I was nailing it. Nailed it. It was awesome. And so I'm sitting there going, I was worried my ankles were going to rupture. The tendons were going to rupture. I didn't tell anybody that because I knew if I said it out loud, there would be good reason to say, hey, maybe you should stop.
Yeah. Right.
Which when I had them looked at by a friend of mine who's in ortho afterwards, like 3 days post race, he was like, you do know these could have ruptured. It's like, on.
Yes.
For doing that. Here we are. That's what we do. Maybe that's not a good thing, but it's what I did. And so I get taped. I take Tylenol. I think I popped 3 Tylenol, have them taped, and I stand up. I'm in so much pain. I have both my poles. I look like an old man trying to walk.
Yeah.
Parking lot. Mike's with me. We walk out. Allison said afterwards, she was like, it was pretty pathetic. Like I remember thinking like, there's no way you make it. And I had told Mike and myself, I told myself, like, if I can just get to the next aid station, Mike will want to quit because I'll be so awful to be with. It'll be fine. But I gave him a chance to run. He's like, dude, you should probably quit. You're clearly not moving well. So we're walking out of the aid station, and I'm like, Mike, I'm sorry, man. Like, I'll do the best I can. Like, you could pull me. I am in a lot of pain. So we cross the highway, and then you basically go uphill for 2 miles to get back up on top of the tunnel.
Oh gosh.
And I am just hiking, and Mike is talking to me. And I remember I was giving him 1-word answers because it's all I could do. And at one point I said to him, I was like, Mike, this is all I got. If you want to tell stories, I'll listen all day long. Actually, I think you said something similar to me at one point in Moab.
Yeah.
And he was like, great, I got you, man. I'll tell stories. And so, which by the way, I would not have finished this if Zach hadn't got me to Spring Creek on time.
Yeah.
And I would not have finished this if Mike hadn't pulled me to the finish. There was just no chance. I was ready to quit. And those running for those 2 guys ended up becoming part of my why. And talking with Mike a lot on the run of, I want to show my kids that you can do hard things and that barriers and problems and many failures are things you just get through. Like you learn from it and you move on. Like they don't define us. We just keep moving. And I wanted my kids to see that. And so for them and for my kids, it became, I would say, a lot of people say you got to have a why going in. And I'm
Yeah.
not saying I didn't have a why going in, but my why emerged during that race. And
Cool.
it's what ended up pulling me through. And so we get to the top of this 2 mile climb, back up on top of the Continental Divide. And right when we get up there, Mike's, hey, let's just see how you feel. Let's just give it a little bit of a push. We're flat up here. Let's just see what happens. So we start running and it didn't feel good, but I would say after a mile, I either the Tylenol kicked in, which it should have kicked in way before then,
Yeah.
or I forgot about it. And other than my left ankle feeling a little bad, the other ankle had stopped hurting and we were just cruising.
Yeah.
And we cruised. And you run across this trail for a while. And there's a point, like we were running the same place I ran going out, but there's a point where instead of going back the same way, it, there's these, pink flags you're following with reflectors on them. And we're in the daylight, but all of a sudden there's a sign and it just says go right. And you look and you're like, that's just like, that's just the green field. And we're bushwhacking.
Right.
Bushwhack across this field, which is full of rocks and grass that it's so uneven. There's no trail.
Yeah.
Falling flags like forever. And it was tough, but we're moving. And then you come to this edge of this cliff. It's like, where do we go? I'm like, oh, there's a pink flag there. So I guess we're going to do some like bouldering or something to get down this thing. So you sort of make your way down this thing. And then you end up on this hillside and then you drop down into this valley. And we stopped at one point there to check my tape because I was feeling a little bit, I was feeling better, but a little bit. And then from that point, Trevin, you start cruising down through this valley to go to the next aid station, which is at, I think it was supposed to be mile 92. It ended up being like mile 95. So
Yeah.
it was like a 12 mile, it was actually 15 or something. So we're cruising and, I get into that aid station a lot earlier than anticipated. Like Allison and the kids, for them, it was like a 20-minute drive, which by the way is also demoralizing. We were like,
Right.
you guys just zipped her over here.
Yeah. Cool. Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. Cool.
And the 2 days before, I had driven them out there to see these aid stations because I was like, here's where you're going to go, just so you guys have driven and know where you're going.
Yeah.
So I like mentally knew what it took to get there and then what it was taking me to get there. And it was just brutal. We come in and at this point, I'm still feeling good. And Mike's, I remember he was like, all right, we're going to run from here to like that stick or flat.
Yeah.
And then we're going to walk. And
Right.
I remember thinking like, I don't need to walk. Let's keep moving. But I was just trusting his process.
Yeah.
Cool thing about ultras is you learn to accept help.
Hmm.
And I, at that point, was like, you know what? Like he is smarter than me. I am very clearly not thinking well. Like, I accept his help. In addition to filling water bottles and food and taping ankles and all that. So we come into the aid station. My kids come out running with me. It was awesome. The lady helping me fill in water bottles, and Mike was like, hey, I need to like redo some food things here. And the lady's like, don't wait on him. It was hilarious. She was like, don't wait on him. He can't slow you down. He'll catch you. He's fine. He can't run as far as you. And so she's not wrong. Go if you want to. So she's like, get out of here. You need to you've got to get to this point before sundown or you're going to be in a bad way. I don't know when I don't know. So I'm like, okay, whatever that means.
Yeah.
So I take off about 2 miles down the road. Mike catches me and I've been running and I'm running. And so from that point, I don't know, we ran whatever, so many miles. You're on a road and then you bushwhack again and you're bushwhacking for forever. We come up on some other people, pass all of them. And which mind you, my mind blown. I'm like, how am I passing you?
I love it.
And we get to mile 100 and yet again, edge of a cliff. I'm like, where do we go? Mike's, oh, there's the flags. And one of the guys who we had passed at that point had sort of come up upon us and he's like, I'm going to hang with y'all. Great. So we start cruising down this trail that takes you to like, I don't even know how to describe this to you. It's large rock faces that are going straight up, which are the top of this mountain. And they're probably like 30 feet above you. And then they meet where they meet the top, which is where you're coming in. It's loose, like rock, like big rocks, loose rocks. And it looks like a rock slide that goes down for a long. And so you come off this edge of this cliff, you drop down to that. And then you're like, so we're just going down this rock pile.
Oh my gosh. At mile, what, like 90 at this point? Oh, after 100, you just said that. Yeah.
Mile 100. It was awful. And so and they're not stable. So you're trying to like, is that good?
Oh my
I've
gosh.
got two ankles that are in horrible pain. So I'm just like, can I stop there? So the three of us sort of make our way down. At one point, the other guy's, hey, I'm going to keep moving because he was moving better than I was.
Yeah.
So you sort of like zigzag your way across this. And then eventually you get down it and it kicks you out onto this, I don't even know. It's kind of a trail that emerges out on this Jeep road. And you're like, oh, I get why they wanted me to be there before daylight. But now that I'm here, let's go. This is great. Like, we're early. Let's go knock this out. No, that's not what's going to happen. What you find out very quickly is this Jeep road, you sort of come out like up the top of it, right? So the trail like comes out and it's like a round area is where you basically turn around. And then there's the road that goes down.
Okay.
So mind you, we've been up at 12,500 in the morning. So now we have to go back to Creed to get back down to 9,500 feet.
Right.
So you're about to drop, and maybe it was 30, but we're about to drop like 3,000 or 4,000 feet. And from mile 100 down to 104, which is the last aid station where you're outside of town. So in that period of time, we descend 3,000 or 4,000 feet. And you understand why. You go down the ski pile and then you get to this Jeep road. And the Jeep road it's steep enough and like loose, gravelly enough that if you're not careful, you'll slide.
Oh my gosh.
But if you run too fast, like you're totally going to be out of control. And if you try to stop, you're going to slide and come out. And so it was this delicate balance of moving at this pace where you weren't sliding, but also weren't out of control. And to make it worse, it's a V.
Oh,
and
gosh.
in the V are large rocks because gravity, and that's where they go. And so you're like, oh, I'll run in the middle of the V. You can't because it's large rocks. So you're trying to run like on the side.
Oh,
your ankles are like this or like this. And then there's points where you're like, well, maybe I could just like jump between like at the bottom of the V.
yeah.
Or like at the top. But then inevitably you'd come upon something that was in your way. So then you'd have to go. And if you didn't have the right footing, you'd slide. It was awful. So you're on that for forever.
Oh my gosh.
Kicks you out. Finally, there's this last steep deal. And we had caught this girl, or maybe she'd caught us, and she was from there. She had run the race before and she was running. So this race director, they've got 3 races, Macy's Hideout, I think it's for Rio Grande something, and then Creed 100. They're all hundreds. They're within like, 3 months, each within a month of each other. And they're all in that area. And she was running them all.
Cool.
Very cool. And so she was like, hey, like we got to get down this road before the sun sets or it's going to hurt you. And we get to the final phase. We're with them. And she's like, look, don't run on the road. Run on the sides in the grass. It's going to be uneven, but you'll have like plants to hit with because if you try to run on that road, it will take you out because it was even steeper. The very end of it was even steeper. We finally get on that. We come to the 104 station, which was kind of a joke. I don't even know why they have it. You're 4 miles from town. You're at the bottom. It's really unnecessary. We got there. Right after we got there, we turned on headlamps. 4 points up by to finish, which you basically go out back to the road you sort of started on.
Yeah.
You back uphill for a mile or so. And then you have this gradual descent into town. And the best part, dude, it was just so fitting. So I run all that I think we passed 1 or 2 other people on that piece. And then you come down to the bottom of the road, felt like it took forever. And you get to the end of town and the original road we ran out on, right? Yeah. You done the U-turn and went up, same deal to get back. So I hit that road. It's pitch black. I have a headlamp. Mike is behind me, probably like 50 yards. And he had stopped to go to the bathroom, was like, hey, keep going. I'll be right behind you. And he told me later, he was like, dude, I was in so much pain. Like he was like, all of a sudden you just took off and I couldn't keep up. And he was running lead though 3 weeks later. And so I was like, dude, you should have stopped. You shouldn't have put yourself in that position.
Yeah.
Sorry. And he was like, no, no, no. Like I was pumped for you. Like I wanted to see you finish. So he's behind me, come to find out because he was in terrible pain. And so I'm coming down this dark road, man. I have my headlamp on. I don't know how long the road is. It's not that long, but I don't know, 500 yards long. It's long enough that you can't see what's at the end.
Yeah.
I hit about, I don't know, halfway down it. I can see lights from the grocery store.
Okay.
I'm hearing some cowbells. There's probably 15 people out there. Like 7 or 8 of them are like family and friends for me. The other are for a guy who was behind me who I had passed who's going to finish. He fit like 15 minutes behind me. And, it's so dark. And I see them, I'm pumped, I'm jogging, my kids are running with me, just so cool.
Mm.
And I pass the supermarket, I go to the little park thing.
Yeah.
Race director and one of the volunteers are chilling in lawn chairs, sitting at the deal.
Yep.
The only lights, my headlamp and theirs. And I run up and I'm like, is this the finish? And she jokingly goes, nope, it's that crap right there in front of you. I'm like in the ground. And so, like jokingly step across it. She hands me my belt buckle and I was pumped, but that was the finish. There was finish speakers. There were no like, well, Dowell coming in from Dallas, Texas. There's nothing like a big race. There's nothing, zero.
Yeah.
It was just a feat that we did.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. It's so funny because did you do any like visualization or anything like that like before? Because it sounds like you did a little bit with like aid stations and stuff like that. But what was there something other than, yeah, I love that you talked about your why emerging over the course, but even going into it, had you thought about the finish line? Had you thought about any of that end result at all before getting to that
for
moment?
sure. Yeah, I think I guess I didn't think about what the finish line was going to look like.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, that emotional sense of, I'd visualize myself like a day, post race. I do this sometimes when I get into hard things, is like I visualize myself on the other side looking back.
Cool.
Yeah, I know what it's going to feel like, where I'm going, that was a hard thing, but I did it. And so that was the most I think I had done, was just thinking
Yeah.
through. And so there were points where you're in that, God, this is awful. And thinking, hey, 24 hours, like you look at your watch, you're like, okay, 24 hours from right now, I'm going to be on the other side of this thing, and thinking, man, I'm glad I did that hard thing.
Cool. That's a cool way to do some visualization. I like that a lot. In your write-up, you talk about the fleeting and your build up to this was so good, right? Where you're just like 2 headlamps and mostly family. So you get handed this belt buckle. What's going through your mind?
Yeah. I mean, it wasn't long at all. So I get it. And I'm like, man, I worked hard for this. Like I earned this. It means a lot to me. It's sitting back there. I'm proud of it. But it was within like not long, seconds.
Yeah.
Where it was like, that's it.
Yeah.
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 And I think it wasn't depressing for me. It wasn't like, it didn't steal the joy of the accomplishment. I think it reframed the joy of the accomplishment for me, from I did that to what a journey.
Yeah.
And the conversation, I mean, dude, the conversations you have with people along the way, the things you learn about people that you don't know, but you're both going through hell. And so the vulnerability is just there. The encouragement, Zach pushing me through in his own way, which he's a very
Yeah.
quiet confidence. And it's just Like his own way of encouraging me is just to keep moving.
Yeah.
And basically sometimes verbally, but mostly just in his actions. There would be times where he'd be like 20 yards in front of me or, even more. And it's, dude, slow down. But I would even realize, oh, he thinks I can do this, you know?
So cool. Yeah.
And then Mike's way of doing that for me was different. It was very verbal. And it was like, hey, you got this. Hey, like you can do hard things. Let's think about what we need to think about right now to get through this moment. And hey, let's think about your kids. What are your kids like he was all in on your kids are going to look at you at the end of this and go, my dad does hard things. And you're going to show them that if you can do it, they can do it. They will never forget that they can do hard things because they saw you do it. And that was his way. And so that was the intro for me. It was like, you get the buckle and it's fleeting, but you have this, it took me 37 and a half hours to finish that race, which is a long time.
Yeah.
And that the hours I spent with people were the gifts.
Yeah.
You know, that,
Love
that, 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 that was my biggest takeaway from the whole thing was it's the journey, it's the people, it's the relationships and the connections you make along the way that are worth it. And so like, why go do an ultra? That's why. Like finishing, fine. And I'm sure there's people out there, especially if they're winning races, who think that's a big part for them.
Yeah.
I don't know what the percentage is. It's got to be in the high 90s because most people don't win races. There's a ton of people who do.
Totally.
Like the why, I think ultimately is, and the people, the process, like getting to know yourself better, but also getting to know others and getting to know yourself better through others and providing the same for them as well. That's it. That's why we run ultras.
Yeah.
Or that's why I run ultras.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, that resonates with me big time. Other than those takeaways, I am always curious to ask what translates into non-physical pursuits as a result of you doing hard things now for an extended period of time. Have you noticed anything? And you've done hard things before that weren't physical as well. So it could go either way, right? Was there something that you learned that wasn't an obvious transferable benefit or something like that? What beyond the physical have you taken or helped you get through this?
Yeah. It's a great question. And I mean, because there's so much you can take, but I think the single biggest takeaway I took from Creed is how ready and willing we are to receive help during an ultra.
Mm.
And for me, I love to give help to other people. I don't love to receive it. And I was so struck with an ultra at the beginning. I think there was a little bit of like, hey, I got this. I can do that. I mean, once the ankles gave out and once I was kind of like, oh my gosh, am I not going to finish this race because of my ankles? Everything else is going right. And this is happening. I've never had this issue. I don't even know what happened. Internet, it was 2 high ankle sprains. It's like a thing that happens through repetitive use going downhill. Man, I was so ready and willing to receive help.
Mm.
And it felt good. It was like, yeah, thank you. I need that. And there's beauty in receiving help. I grow, other people get to grow, like they get the joy of helping. There's so much beauty in that. And so I think it's like that interconnectedness of us and others, our need for community, our need for each other. It's probably the biggest takeaway I have coming out of Creed that I have continued to think about. You know what? I don't have to figure that out. Let's let somebody else man, I can't figure that out and I just need help. I don't know what I don't know and I need help. And so that's been the biggest one for me, Trevon.
Yeah. That's so good, my friend. Well, thank you so much for taking the time, sharing your story. And I'm so honored to have just a small part to have you have this type of experience. And
I
I
wouldn't
keep,
have without you, bro.
well, I wouldn't have some of the great things that I have. And it was fun to hear you talk about your crew. And I know that you get it where there's just, I will never be able to describe like the love and gratitude of helping me do hard things, helping me in those moments. And so it's one of those things where I was just, oh, I will be friends with Will forever.
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally.
As because of these things that are just, we're putting ourselves in these situations, and it's these really difficult moments that you do often need someone else to help guide the way, or give you some of that encouragement, or even just shoot you straight. It's just, hey, this is what needs to happen if you're gonna do this cool thing that's really hard, but you gotta pull it together and you gotta push. And so cool to hear your own version of that and your own story, and just really have a lot of gratitude for you sharing. And I'm excited for what's next on the horizon for both of us and what that means, and love that you're already translating it into other moments. I think that's been the weird, similar to yours, it's been a weird unanticipated gift from something that seems really selfish, right? On the surface, that's one of the barriers that I had to overcome with ultras was, is this benefiting anybody else but me? And it turns out it does.
Yep.
And it builds the connection. It builds your humility. It builds openness to do hard things, but also can inspire other people. And so I appreciate you inspiring me, and hopefully others that take a listen, man. I love you, buddy.
I love you, man. And I love that you're doing this. And thanks for pulling me into this world.
Yeah.
It's a great place to be. Like you said, it doesn't have to be, it doesn't have to be selfish.
Yeah.
It certainly can be, but it doesn't have to be. And yeah, the lessons are totally worth the journey.
Yeah. Love it, man. Very cool.
Thanks, dude.
Yeah, of course. Thank you.